Hello and welcome into this podcast. I'm basically just going to cover a few things. Drew Parker could not make it to the podcast today, so I just wanted to do a quick recap of what happened last week, a few games in college football, Tech's season stats so far, and just looking ahead to the Iowa State game. All right, so to start, I just wanted to say something quick about the NFL. Texans win over the Browns 33-17. Deshaun Watson sets the rookie record for touchdown passes in the first 6 games with 14 on the season. Okay, that's basically all I have for the NFL. Okay, college football last weekend. This might make some of you Tech fans feel a little bit better. 8 of the top 25 teams fell to unranked teams last year. So here's the list. Syracuse beats number 2 Clemson 27-24. Cal destroys number 8 Washington State 37-3. It was a complete blowout. Mike Leach was not happy about that. Washington State is down to 15th spot after that. Arizona State beat number 5 Washington 13-3. Not a good weekend for that state, all of Washington basically, for that state as well. Okay, LSU pulls out a victory over number 10 Auburn 27-23, which actually moves LSU back up to being ranked 24. And 13 unanswered fourth quarter points for the victory. It's pretty good to get LSU the lead. Okay. Boise State updates the 6-0 number 19 San Diego State 31-14. Memphis defeats number 25 Navy 30-27 and takes their spot in the rankings at 25. And Michigan holds on to beat Indiana. Was the other game that I mentioned. Was potentially an upset last week, but they did hold on to win. And so, of course, the Tech. So that's the 8 teams that lost to unranked teams. In the Big 12, we have Oklahoma beating Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Number 6, TCU taking care of Kansas State 26-6, and that defense is really looking good for TCU. Number 14, Oklahoma State dominates Baylor 59-16. Baylor still sucks, that's for sure. Iowa State impressively shuts out Kansas 45-0, and that's the team we're playing this next week. Iowa State is definitely getting votes to be in the top 25. All right, so Tech's season so far. We have these stats through basically the first half of the season. So, Nick Shimanek has now had 18 touchdowns on 2,134 yards in the year with a QBR of 76.5. For people calling for his head, he's actually playing pretty well if you take it as a whole. Of course, he needs to play better in the second half, but that's something we can address. Justin Stockton leads the team with 481 yards and 4 touchdowns on 72 carries. That's pretty good. Justin Stockton was having an up year after a down, junior season. Kiki Cutie now has 672 yards and 6 touchdowns on the year on 45 catches. He's such an explosive playmaker. I'm glad he's getting more healthy day by day. Tech now averages 44.8 points a game, which makes them rank 4th nationally in that stat. That's still pretty good for an offense that we've seen to be struggling by Tech standards. Tech is ranked 5th nationally in passing yards with 376 yards per game. Still pretty normal for Tech. Tech's defense has allowed 30.8 points per game, which is ranked 92nd nationally. All right, now on to the West Virginia game notes. West Virginia wins 46-35 in a game where Texas Tech had a total team meltdown after being up 35-17 in the second half. Sorry to remind you guys about this, but I just wanted to go through see what happened in that. West Virginia overcomes an 18-point deficit in the fourth quarter to win, 4 touchdowns in the last 5 possessions. Not a very good finish for Tech. After 4 touchdowns in the first half, Shimanek had 0 touchdowns and an interception in the second half. 252 first-half pass yards, 71 in the second half. Overall, his QBR still stayed at 70.8, but, that second half really killed us, and especially that fourth quarter. Tech ended the game on 3 consecutive 3-and-outs, which made the defense completely exhausted and ineffective as well. West Virginia won the time of possession barely, 30 minutes and 54 seconds. Will Grier throws 4 of his 5 touchdowns on the day in the second half. His QBR was 83.9 in that game. Justin Stockton had 96 yards, ran pretty impressively well for most of the game. Trey King had 67 as well with a touchdown. Punter Dominique Panazzolo had a great run for a first down on a 13-yard keeper. TJ Vasher had a breakout game with 113 yards on 2 receptions with an incredible 60-yard touchdown. That was just a great play, jumping over a guy, seeing his height and catch radius on that one. Kiki Cutie had another good game as well, 86 yards and a touchdown. Tech tied the turnover battle with a 1-to-1 ratio. After Des Smith intercepted that ball, we went 3 and out, which is very much a momentum killer. Michael Barden is really still hoping he can wake up from his nightmare of a game. He was 0 for 3 on field goals, missed from 43, 36, and 24. Tech had 4 sacks on West Virginia, which is a bright side. Eli Howard, Willie Sykes, Colin Hill, and Broderick Washington. It's good to know moving forward that we have some people that are capable of making sacks as well. Tech had 513 total yards to West Virginia's 396 on the game. We outgained them by 117 yards, which generally that stat will show you which team played the better overall game. Of course, the fourth quarter meltdown, as it is, really ruined that chance. West Virginia outgained Texas Tech 166-16 in that fourth quarter. It's not a good stat at all. We need to close out games. It's something that we've struggled with this season. When you're up 18 in the fourth quarter, you really need to close out the games. Tech had 27 first downs. West Virginia had 28 in the game. Pretty balanced stat there. Tech was penalized 16 times for 159 yards. That is completely pitiful, terrible. I don't know how much of that will be on the refs and how much of that is on Tech. I feel like about 100 of those yards may have been actual penalties, but they got a little bit flag happy there in that part of the game. West Virginia was penalized only 9 times, which is still a lot, for 93 yards. But when you compare that to 16, we've got more penalized. Tech's third down efficiency was not very good, converting only 5 of 14, and West Virginia was only 4 of 13 as well. So in general, not a good offensive game. But I mean, at the same time, so there's been so many second downs and first downs keeping the drives rolling that there wasn't relatively a ton of third downs in that game. Neither team had a fourth down stop, with Tech being 2 for 2 and West Virginia being 1 for 1 on fourth down. Tech did hold Justin Crawford to 47 yards on 14 rushes. Wide receiver David Sills, man, he has a lot of touchdowns on this year and continues to be a threat in this game. 3 touchdowns, 89 yards. Kayron White, I think is how you say it, had a big game with 2 touchdowns on 114 yards on the game as well. Tech threw for 323 yards, and West Virginia threw for 352, and that's averaging 8.3 and 8.6 yards per attempt, respectively. Tech outrushed West Virginia a lot this game. 190 yards, and West Virginia only got 44 all game, a lot of those coming late in the fourth quarter. 5.8 yards per carry for Tech and 1.5 for West Virginia. All right, now I'm going to look ahead at Iowa State preview notes. So it's 11 a.m. in Lubbock. Oh, man, we keep getting these 11 a.m. games. It's really tough. And next week we have a 7 p.m. at Oklahoma, so that may help the home team as well. But we're just looking at this game, Iowa State right now. Tech is the 6-point favorite at home. Iowa State is a very good team. You know, years past they've kind of been a team that a lot of the Big 12 tramples down, but they've looked a lot better this year. They have 16 votes for the AP Top 25, and they have a statement win already at Oklahoma, and are coming off a 45-0 win over Kansas. I say all that, but at the same time, their optimism is high. But at the same time, Tech, I really think they're a pretty good team, and that regardless of the last fourth quarter, I think there is some hope in this game. And I really do expect Tech to play much better than they have, especially late in this game, because of that 66-10 last year that everyone will remember whether they're there or not. I think the team will use it for motivation. People have been saying they haven't, but I really think it will. It's homecoming, and we're playing. We're playing them at homecoming. I don't know if that'll be a distraction or they'll help the Tech team, but I think the motivation is actually high for us. The 4-2 Cyclones are on a 2-game win streak, 2-1 in conference, and Tech is 4-2 with a 1-2 conference record. Their lone common opponent is Kansas, who both of them beat. Kansas beat them by 45, and we beat them by 46. Theirs being 45-0, us being 65-19. At home, I really do like our odds, and so does the ESPN FPI Index, which gives Tech a 66.7% chance to win this game. At home, I would definitely agree with that. We should have at least close to a 70% win chance. Iowa State has the 20th best passing offense with 293.5 passing yards per game and the 29th best offense at 35.7 points scored per game. They have the 119th ranked rushing game, so they don't have as powerful in general as a rushing game at 107 yards per game. Their defense allows 21.7 points per game, which is ranked 45th. Their leading passer is Jacob Park right now with 1,181 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and a QBR of 57.8 on the season. I'm not sure if he's still the starter or if the new guys come up and past him. We'll see when game time comes out. But he is currently their leading passer. Running back, David Montgomery has over 100 carries on the year, 478 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So he's a guy we need to contain as well. Hakeem Butler is the leading receiver with 372 yards, 3 touchdowns on the season. But I'd also keep your eye on Alan Lazard. I think he's 6'5". He's just a beast. So he's a guy that definitely keep your eye on, especially with those 50-50 balls that he seems to come down with fairly frequently. All right, so of course I wanted to give you guys some fun facts about Iowa State for the people who have been listening to a lot of these podcasts. It's one of my favorite segments to do. I just want to do a few things today. Famous alumni. George Washington Carver, who is a famous African-American inventor, astronaut Clayton Anderson, and NBA coach Jeff Hornacek. He's the coach for the Suns. I don't really know his name. There's not a lot of people that I could find that are really famous from Iowa State, but those are the guys that I found. Their stadium actually is named after Jack Trice, who he was the first black athlete to play for the Cyclones, and he's the only to die from injuries from a football game. In his first game against Minnesota in 1923, he was trampled on the field during the game. He died 3 years later in the hospital, so they have that to memorialize him. Jack Trice Stadium is actually the only stadium in NCAA Division I that is named after an African American. So that's a pretty cool fact about about Iowa State. And their mascot, of course, I love to talk about the mascots as well. Those are pretty fun. You can't really have a Cyclone as a mascot, so they use a cardinal-like bird named Cy. The school colors are gold and cardinal red. Cy was created in 1954 in a homecoming pep rally and is at major sports events always wearing the gold color, and of course he is cardinal red because he's a cardinal. Other than that, there's not much unique or cool about this mascot. Kind of like I imagine Ames to be, pretty plain. I don't know, maybe that's a shot at Ames, but yeah, okay. So Tech's recipe for victory. Okay, here's all I got. Start fast, which means don't get distracted by the homecoming stuff, and I want to see if they can get 14 points in the first quarter, 14 or more. Second one, don't play prevent defense. Keep the blitzes coming. We had some really cool ones actually in the West Virginia game that kind of gave us that lead, that gave us the edge defensively. Don't play not to lose, play to win. My next one is avoid 3 and outs. If something is working, keep doing it. For the love of all things holy, pass down the field. Nobody in the Big 12 except Kansas is going to be unable to stop those 2-on-2 screens on the outside where you have 2 and they have 2 men out there. They generally shut that down for 0 or 1 yards. So finish them. If you get a lead larger than 9 points, and everyone that's a Tech fan will agree with me on this one, keep the pedal to the metal. Score at least 10 fourth quarter points is my criteria for that one. All right, on to my score prediction. So I'm sticking with my preseason prediction like I have to do all year, and I'll find out Drew's and write it in the comments. But I'm going to say that we continue, as I said at the beginning of the season, that I'm going to go with the final score of Tech winning 48-24. Tech winning fairly big at home, after a tough road loss. They will be motivated for revenge after the disaster loss in Ames last year, especially with that 66-10. I know Broderick Washington was one player that said this is the game he most looks forward to. We are not that team that was there last year, and of course the weather will be better. Look for Tech to come out and destroy ISU for 4 quarters. And just a little message of hope to all Tech fans. This season is not over. We don't need to burn everything. Cliff doesn't need to lose his job right now. We're sitting at 4-2. It's a good start to the season, and I truly believe that this team can be an 8-win team, potentially, I don't want to say 9-win team, but potentially up to an 8 or 9-win team. I'm sticking with my preseason prediction at 7-5, and I don't think that's a terrible season. And so, getting the ball rolling back towards where we need to be going as a program, improving, getting more wins, and looking more complete as a team, I think that Tech is actually better than a lot of fans give it credit for. Don't just wait for them to fail. Truly go along with this season. I know that last one hurt. I know the one at West Virginia really hurt. But yeah, my encouragement to you is just keep going with it, because Tech games are so much fun to watch. And sometimes they break your heart, but sometimes they just bring so much joy. So keep it going and stay strong and wreck 'em.